nabanye siyibonile. So I think we're done with that one. Honorable Natasha.
Thanks, Chair. I just want to check that Nellis sent us this document that we're going to go through now. It will just be proper if we're going to do documents like that, we at least get it a night before and peruse it and stuff like that, and not get it at the day of the meeting. So maybe perhaps I'm missing it through my emails. If we can just get clarity if we have that document. I'm new to this committee and process, so whatever was discussed and agreed upon last year is null and void for me, because I'm starting this process today afresh for me. So I'd like to just get clarity on this document. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, for today's document, they are going to send it to you now. Number have sent it, ne? Yeah, because, Honorable Natasha, for your own benefit, the reason that all the information, because we are a panel, so we don't want information to go out even before our meeting sits. So all our documents, we receive them in the meeting. So like now, we are here in the meeting before even Herman starts presenting this document, the proposed criteria, with the few amendments that we have, additions that we have put. Chekani Gutabonelisa, they should have now sent this document to yourselves. We are not in a hurry. So that's why we take long in these meetings, so that you go through. And the criteria is based on the constitution of the country, the NYDA Act, the Youth Charter, and what else, Konja Hemen? So you'll explain, Akir. And then the clause that we effected, the one, good preference will be given to young people, youth under the age of 35 years. So preference, but it doesn't mean if there's somebody who's above, because the act is quiet, but the constitution is clear, and who is youth? It's up to how many years. So that's why we're saying that. So it's because you value your right to say, hey, by the way, I'm new, I was not part of the subcommittee, so don't worry, we'll take it through. And then, but now, Zoitoli document. Do you have the documents, honorable members? Not yet. Namvula, you're sending it. Namvula is sending it. Chair? Oh, okay. We can take a break, honorable members, whilst we are waiting for our staff to send the document to yourselves, to your emails. We've been flying and there's no tea, you know, most in the flights. We've been drinking water. Yeah. Nomvula. Oh, Zake. We can start, honorable members. Dr. Tembe is ready to make a presentation. Nelisa. Okay, thank you very much, honorable members. Dr. Tembe is going to present the draft proposal. In manje level ala. Oh, why wasn't an iPhone? Dr. Tembe is going to present the draft criteria that we drafted, so that honorable members can make inputs and then we adopt it. If you remember, this was initially a closed meeting, and after we sat and discussed with the legal team and trying to in working with the last criteria that we had and trying to put other things that we thought they are of importance for this process. We then, after that meeting, decided that we are ready to present to honorable members, and we are going to have one closed meeting. So that's why we had to go and apply for an open meeting after that permission was granted to us to have a closed meeting. So that's why today's meeting is open, and honorable members can go through the document and you can add or amend so that we are adopting our criteria, and then we will move forward with the criteria that we have proposed. Over to you, Dr. Tembe.
Thanks, Honorable Co-Chair and Chairs and honorable members for this opportunity to present the draft selection criteria. I'll just preface my presentation that this is a working document, because initially this is the document that we presented last year, but owing that a document, there is no final document until it reaches its audience. So it has been a working document. We kept on improving it. Let's consider it as a draft, which the members will make inputs from what we had last year and other additions and other suggestions that I'll make along and make further illustrations, because the issue of the board, it's much more prevalent in corporate law, so we have to consider corporate law or company law and the other improvement coming from the King 3, King 4 report. That is my preface. Then the first part of the document, it states the objectives of this shortlisting criteria, that it is to aid the Portfolio Committee of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities and the Select Committee on Health and Social Services with the selection and recruitment process. The NYDA board is established in terms of the NYDA Act, which 54 of 2008, and consists of 7 members. Members hold office for a period of 3 years, and its functions are encapsulated in the Act, which we'll refer to later, which is Section 8 of the Act, but briefly, which is to manage the affairs of the National Youth Development Agency and exercise control over its powers and execution of its function. The President will, on recommendation by Parliament, appoint members to serve on the NYDA. That is, it's found in Section 9 of the NYDA Act. Then the NYDA board composition, appointment, and conditions of service. In a company, the board occupies the center stage and forms the bedrock of a company system of corporate governance. It should be able to execute its mandate, which is to direct, govern, and be in effective control of the company. Commentators on the composition of the board have submitted that boards of directors are an economic institution that, in theory, help to solve the agency problems inherent in managing an organization. Although the boards satisfy numerous regulatory requirements, their economic function is determined by the organizational problems they help to address. It is imperative that during the shortlisting and interview process, members should consider the conditions of service of the board as outlined in the NYDA Act, the task which is entrusted to the board members of the NYDA Act, of the NYDA, falls within the scope of mandate given to members of commissions, as it is also inclusive of their conditions of service. Having considered the mandate of the board holistically, it is necessary that the composition of the NYDA board is dissected and, more importantly, consider the skills and competencies to operationalize it. Section 8 of the NYDA Act enlists the rudimentary aspects. However, the committee in its selection criteria should be progressive in the recommendations, factoring the complex nature of issues encountered by the board. This examines the type of caliber, innovation, experience, expertise, etc. possessed by the candidates. Section 9 of the Act, which is critical for a selection process, deals with the composition, appointment, and conditions of service of the board. According to the prescripts of the NYDA Act, the board consists of 7 members, 2 whom are executive directors, and the chief executive officer, who is an ex-officio member of the board without voting rights. Members of the board are appointed by the President on the recommendation of Parliament. In addition to the composition of the board, the Act entails the process of recruitment. It provides that members must be appointed in a manner ensuring a participation by youth in the nomination process, B, transparency and openness, and C, that a short list of candidates for appointment is published. Furthermore, the members must reflect the demographics and geographical spread of the Republic. In particular, this section is intended to manifest the multiracialism espoused by the Constitution. The President must designate one of the members as the chairperson and another member as deputy chairperson, and both are executive directors referred in subsection 9.1. Members who are not executive directors serve on part-time basis. The Act is very clear in section 9.1a that board comprises of only 2 executive directors, which is the chair and deputy chair. This position is further accentuated by section 9.7 that the deputy chairperson must, when the chairperson is absent or unable to perform his or her duties, act in his or her stead, and when so acting, perform any functions of the chairperson. Members hold office for a period of 3 years, which I think I alluded earlier on. Procedural, in terms of the Act, the President must publish the appointment of a member in the Government Gazette. The Act further envisages a situation where a member could resign or be removed from office. Therefore, a member appointed to fill a vacancy holds office for the unexpired portion of the term of the members he or she replaces. Just to digress a little bit on this point and add, previously in the former board, we had a situation where one member resigned and that position was not filled, and the board couldn't correct. So hence, this is emphasized before even the appointment is made, so that members will consider that, so that Parliament doesn't encounter a similar situation as it happened last year. They must be alive to the fact that if there is a vacancy, it must be filled immediately. And the person who fills that position continues on the part of the unexpired portion of the resigned or outgone member. Then section 9.10 provides the conditions of service of members as are determined by the President in consultation with the Minister of Finance. Members who are employed by organ of state are not entitled to remuneration or any allowance, but must be reimbursed for out-of-pocket expenses by the board. So then the third part, it's the roles and responsibility of the board. Basically, the board has been described as the primary institutional mechanism which the shareholders render the executive appointed to manage the company on their behalf, accountable for their stewardship. As I've said before, also just to illustrate on this point, as I've said before, mostly the board is in a corporate environment. That's why most of the time I speak about the company, because most of the time when you speak about the board, it's in a company. Although this is the agency, it's considered as a company. So just to give the context why most of the time I refer to a company. Simple put, the board of directors is responsible for the company's strategic direction and is therefore ultimately responsible for ensuring the company's success. Management, on the other hand, is primarily responsible for giving effect to the strategy as defined by the board. Then some scholar or pundits on this matter, like NYDA, argues that the board must appoint management, set strategic direction for the company, entrench the right tone at the top, provide risk oversight of the control environment, drive performance and ensure appropriate remuneration, and be accountable to shareholders and stakeholders. This gives the context in which the role of the NYDA board is to be considered. According to the charter of the NYDA Board of Directors, the board is accountable and responsible for the affairs of the agency. Basically, initially before the current Companies Act of 2008, the board had its authority derived from the Articles of Association, but under the Companies Act, the new one, now we have got the Memorandum of Incorporation. So the NYDA Charter is sort of a Memorandum of Incorporation. So to this end, the board shall A, retain full and effective control of the agency, B, be responsible for implementing the objects of the agency and principles of youth development as defined in the Act, C, fulfill the agency responsibility in terms of reporting by agency as defined by the Act, D, appoint the Chief Executive Officer, E, determine the agency values, F, determine the strategy to achieve its purpose, G, approve on annual basis the business plan, budgets and reporting framework of NYDA, H, exercise leadership, enterprise, integrity and judgment in directing the agency so as to achieve sustainability for the agency. I monitor and evaluate the implementation of strategies, policies and management performance criteria and business plans. J, identify key risk areas and key performance indicators of the agency in order for it to achieve its objective in a sustainable manner so as to enhance stakeholder value. One, which is to regularly review processes and procedures to ensure effectiveness of internal systems of control and accept responsibility for the total process of risk management. To identify and monitor relevant non-financial statement matters. K, ensure that the agency complies with all relevant laws, regulations, and leading practices. L, ensure that technology and systems are adequate to run NYDA properly and for it to provide world-class products and services through efficient use of its assets, processes, and human resource. M, creation, enforcement, monitoring, and auditing of development and progress of an organizational culture, structures, and processes that seek to support the development of people and the optimization of their potential. And address and correct any inequalities in staff profiles and organizational practices, or establish procedure for induction program for incoming directors. One, which is to regularly assess board performance and effectiveness as a whole, and that individual directors, including that of the Chief Executive Officer. To ensure that the agency has developed a succession plan for the executive directors and senior management. 3, ensure that the agency communicates with shareholders and relevant stakeholders. I think it's missing on this document, it's stakeholders. So I'll tweak it as we go along. Then, requirements of youth development. Although the Act does not specify the qualities expected in person to be appointed to the NYDA board, except for the disqualifying factors in Section 10, it is imperative that some factors be derived from the principles of youth development. Section 4 of the NYDA Act provides the following principles, which may be relevant for the shortlisting. A, promotion of equal opportunity and equal treatment of youth, and the promotion of gender-inclusive approach to the development of youth, where the social influences of gender, disability, the impact of sexism, and the particular circumstances of young women are recognized. B, creation of an environment which supports the continued development and learning of youth. C, promotion of youth participation in democratic process, community and civic decision-making, and development at all levels. D, recognition of youth development as an important mandate. E, responsive to the needs, aspirations, and challenges of youth in a realistic and participation manner. Just to sum up this section, basically it pivots or seeks to emphasize the importance of youth empowerment. So in whatsoever decision for shortlisting and the interview, it means the community must take into consideration that they must empower the youth, because the NYDA is part of the affirmative action which was developed by government. Therefore, these principles should find expression in the appointment of the board members. This means the recommendation for shortlisting should consider gender, disability, and continued development and learning of the youth. I seem to be repeating myself, although I was explaining. These are indicators for synchronization in the process. It is one of the fundamental objectives that youth development be an important mandate. The responsiveness to the needs, aspirations, and challenges of youth cannot be overtly invoked if some of these principles are ignored in favor of unarticulated expediency. There must be a balance of all the factors which are considered, for instance, values and ethics. Then 3, there are board committees within the NYDA. So the board is authorized to form board committees in the execution of its duties, powers, and authorities, but at all times remains accountable to the shareholder. The following are board committees: Audit Committee, Human Resource and Remuneration Committee, Investment Committee, Executive Management Committee, Social and Ethics Committee, ICT Steering Committee. The different board committees mentioned above must at least be constituted by members having rudimentary knowledge with reference to the respective committee's mandates they will serve. Where appropriate or necessary, independent external professional with relevant skills and expertise may be appointed to assist or bolster the committees where there is a shortage of such skills or expertise. In order to bolster the issue of skills and expertise, the NYDA Charter encourages the inclusion of independent external professionals to fill the gap of skills or expertise. Co-opted professionals shall form part of additional members to the committee, shall form part of the quorum for meetings, and shall have voting rights. This is a disadvantage of having less skilled members of the board, because now, clearly, in order to fill the gaps, which means the board has to recruit outside people with expertise in order to assist them or explain something. So hence, it is important that when the committee appoints, it appoints at least those people with the skills and expertise, so that there be no need unless it's under extraordinary circumstances. To avoid doubt as to independence of the board and external influences, it is preempted that suitable caliber of candidate be recommended by Parliament to the President in this process. During the recruitment process, members of the subcommittee are advised to consider the following criteria with the board committees in mind. Section 1 of the NYDA Act crisply captures the critical skills needed to achieve or take forward the object of the agency. What is of fundamental importance is that the committee recruit candidates with the necessary skills and experience thereof. However, candidates should not be prejudiced by lack of experience if he or she possesses other necessary skills identified by the committee. Experience is one of the factors, but not a deciding factor. The skills might be indirectly implied by the Act, which leads to the issue of formal qualification. If I'll add at the end of this what I eventually discovered on this aspect. Another critical factor in the recruitment is stated in section 3.1I is the need to promote the interest of the youth, especially those with disabilities. Then, for board candidate criteria, the committee should consider the following criteria for the NYDA board candidates. Essential criteria, which is defined in section 3 of the NYDA Act. 1, bullet point 1, proven experience contributing to the leadership and strategic direction of a complex organization. Bullet point 2, personal credibility and integrity to command the confidence of the youth of the country. Bullet point 3, ability to lead and to engage effectively with diverse and high-profile stakeholders. Bullet point 4, track record in understanding and previous involvement on youth development matters. Bullet point 5, a candidate should have played a meaningful role in youth development in the society. Bullet point 5, a candidate should be someone of reliability, integrity, and independence. The essential criteria must be informed by what the Act says based on the board's agency or board or agent's mandate or objective as envisaged by the Act. Desirable criteria are what is not expressly prescribed by the Act, but thought essential in corroborating what is already prescribed. The Act in section 10 further provides that a person may not be appointed or continue to serve as a member if he or she A, is an unrehabilitated insolvent, B, has been convicted and imprisoned without the option of a fine or fine more than the prescribed amount for the theft, fraud, forgery, perjury, and offense in connection with the promotion, formation, management of a company and violation of the PFMA Act, or any offense involving dishonesty. C, has, as a result of improper conduct, been removed from an office of trust, or D, has been declared by court to be mentally ill or unfit. The desirable criteria: experience or training in governance in the private, public, and non-governmental sectors, experience or training in government system, experience or training in finance, experience or training in auditing, experience or training in dealing with credit risk, experience or training in human resource management, experience or training in policy research and development, experience or training in legal skills. These desirable criteria, probably, if members can be able to link it with what I previously said, these are the committees which exist within the board. So probably that is the kind of candidates which have to fit in the different committees within the board. In conclusion, it must be accentuated that the committees involved in the recruitment must aspire to have a board with balanced skills. The late Stanley Foster Reed, founder in his book, Founder of Directors and Boards, wrote in an article that most of the boards were ineffective because they lacked diversity. Just to illustrate this point, I happen to have read the book by Professor Farouk Kasim, which was my professor when I was doing my master's at VETS, said on this issue of diversity, say diversity applies to academic qualification, technical expertise, relevant industry knowledge, experience, nationality, age, race, and gender. That is to be considered in the issue of diversity. Conversely, a board dominated by strategic thinkers may be strengthened. I'm sorry for that. I seem to have missed something. An effective board should be composed of people with useful but different and complementary talent. Where there is a competition on equally skilled and qualified directors to fill a vacancy, the decision on whom to appoint should also focus on how the different personalities on the board are likely to gel. It is argued that boards with a large number of consensus seekers benefit from a dissenter or vice versa. Conversely, a board dominated by strategic thinkers may be strengthened by the addition of an operational focused, goal-oriented individual. NYDA, in her book, sums up the 8-bullet criteria of an ideal board that at minimum it should comprise of the following roles. Bullet point 1, innovation. At least one person of the board must be an original thinker and be able to recognize that ability in others. Bullet point 2, analysis. At least one person on the board must have an analytical mind and be able to recognize that ability in others. Bullet point 3, organization. At least one person on the board must be insistent that organized effort is always necessary to ensure long-term success. Bullet point 5, execution. At least one person must have a talent for running organization, enforcing performance, in meeting objectives, and in recognizing that talent in others. Bullet point 6, if I'm not mistaken. Human relations. At least one person must have and maintain a background in this increasingly important area. Bullet point 7. 6. A shareholder activist. At least one person should have the responsibility to think like a shareholder activist. Boards are often caught unaware because no director is playing this role. Bullet point 7, integrator. At least one person should have the ability to connect the dots between viewpoints and issues and bring the disparate view and issue together in a cohesive and structured way. Bullet point 8, generalist. Finally, there must be at least one person who must know a little or a lot about everything, because long-term directors evolve into specialists in the company's core business, and specialists always get into trouble as they lose their sensitivity to change. Therefore, the board composition should take account of the need to successfully lead the company as well as to monitor and control its activities. The key test for any director should not be, does he put diversity points on the scoreboard, but does he add value? The directors individually and the board collectively must possess qualities of independence, integrity, competency, inclusivity, which is the ability to balance the legitimate interest of stakeholders in their decision-making, diligence, courage, and they must be informed about the company in its business environment. Then, on the last paragraph, where you speak about there must be continuity in the boards to ensure a seamless transition from the previous board to the new one. So there are different views on this one, which probably I need to explain to members. Initially, some commentators take the view that if a director has been director on a board for a length period of time, length of service itself, it can impair the director's independence. Others take the view that continued appointment of directors who is experienced in the matter of a company's business is far more useful and will have far greater positive impact on a company's sustainability than a newcomer who is appointed solely because he or she is independent and new. Then the selection criteria are important for future development of the youth in the country, depending on the attributes of the people at the helm of the organization to fulfill its mandate. Furthermore, the committee must champion the interest of the youth, and there must be realignment of priorities to advance the cause of the youth development, inequality, and unemployment. Before I conclude on that one, I wish to add what I discovered, especially in a book by Judge Davis, where he speaks about the composition of the board. Says King 3 had a recommendation that there should ideally be a majority of non-executive independent directors, because this reduces the possibility of conflict of interest. However, in King 4, Principle 7 of its Board of Principles for Good Corporate Governance, it stipulates that the board should comprise of appropriate balance of knowledge, skill, and experience, diversity, and independence for it to discharge its governance role and responsibility objectively and effectively. King 4 has attempted to provide a guidance with regard to the meaning of independence. That is, there is no interest, position, association, relationship held or enjoyed by a director that, when judged from the perspective of reasonable and informed third party, is likely to influence unduly or cause bias in decision making in the best interest of the organization. King 4 further recommends that arrangements should be established for a period of staggered rotation of board members so as to invigorate its capabilities by introducing members with new expertise and perspective while retaining experience and maintaining continuity. In the case of PP WOW National Provident Fund versus Chemical Energy Paper Printing Wood and Allied Workers Union, SEPAO, the court made it clear that directors must act independently regardless of the views or decision of those who appointed them. The court stated that a director is not the servant or agent of shareholder who vote for or otherwise procures his or her appointment to the board in carrying out his or her duties and function as a director. He or she is in law obliged to serve the interest of the company to the exclusion of the interest of any such nominator, employer, or principal. That is where I like to end. But the addition, the last part that I read is not on the document. But when I was doing my research, it's what I discovered. That's where it ends. Thanks, Chair.
Dr. Tembe, but the last information is not in our document. It's just extra information that you are giving us those principles that you were reading. So what we take it as official is the one that are in our document, but we don't mind having that extra information because it's gonna help us also in understanding the role of the board of directors in a company. But honorable members, what Dr. Tembe was presenting is the document. What is official document is the one that we've sent you the emails to yourself, which you were reading through when Dr. Tembe was making the presentation. So that's where we want you to concentrate on and make your comments, and whether you want to amend or add something else, whether there are things that you want us to take out or what, we'll hear from you. But this is what we want to present to you as a proposed draft, so that we can move forward, we adopt our criteria finally, and then we move forward to the next item, which is a way forward. So can we get hands from honorable members? Over to you, Chair. Yeah, the chair will be sharing this session.
Thank you, Mpiti. You can continue.
Thanks, Chairs. Just a couple of questions on my side. The first one is just in relation to Section 4, as discussed in the document. And I think Section 4 is particularly important. Particularly important because I think in the previous process, a lot of the objections that came related to this particular section on demographics and geographical spread. And so I really would like to pose a question to our legal support in terms of being able to understand when we say there must be a demographic and geographical spread, can that be interpreted for us so that we understand exactly in what way it means? And to go further to say that if we had to look at that particular section, would we be able to have an idea of what a threshold might look like to be representative? Because, you know, if there's an unhappiness on a lack of demographic or geographical spread in terms of the selected candidates, how would we know whether that particular section is representative of the selected candidates? So in other words, at what point can we absolutely say as a committee that it is representative on a demographic and geographical spread? That's the first question. And then the second one is in relation to the points mentioned in terms of the criteria on personal credibility and integrity. Now, in the last process, we were never made, we never received the vetting process till the end. And I think, can we get an indication of whether we will be able to receive the vetting process so that we can be able to determine personal credibility and integrity? Because without that vetting report, it makes it very difficult for us to be able to, or to at least be expected to assume that people have credibility and integrity. But further to that, in what ways can this particular section of the criteria be tested by the committee, the subcommittee, particularly when candidates are coming forward. And I think, Chair, this will also maybe be related to, at a later stage when we discuss questions, of how does the committee properly test personal credibility and integrity. I know in the report that has been presented, there's a section that speaks to the disqualification of candidates, and I think that's section 10. Yes, section 10 that speaks to the disqualification of candidates, and it lists the various matters in which candidates can be disqualified. And so I just wanted to ask, how do we reconcile people facing cases that are before the courts, people who are still in processes or procedures to determine whether they are found guilty on a variety of issues? What is the process in regards to those particular candidates? Because I think it becomes very important when the committee considers the final recommendation, particularly for those candidates. I think the same goes for sound judgment and high integrity and reliability and independence. How exactly is the committee supposed to measure this? I think that needs to be clear for us in the process. So as to not be questioning this particular criteria at a later stage if we don't have the clear understanding of how these can be tested when candidates appear before us, but also what they mean and how they can be interpreted in terms of the law. And I think that's why we have legal support here to help us interpret the sections. Chair, I'll stop there for now. Thanks.
Thank you, Member Mpiti. Is there another member with a question? Maseko?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. Maybe it won't be a question, it would be a comment on the criteria that has been presented. And I think one must firstly welcome the report that is coming from the legal side. And Chairperson, I think a lot of work has gone in, and it will be able to correctly guide us in ensuring that, you know, the board that is eventually appointed from this process is the board that would be able to take the National Youth Development Agency forward. Chair, I think mine is to support the proposals that have been put forward. I know that there are those that we cannot change, especially the essential criteria, because I feel that we can't move away from those. And the desirable criteria, Chairperson, one must fully support them, because in them we're able to pick up on a number of issues that are needed for an individual who considers themselves as an executive in any, you know, board or in any executive position, whether you are serving in government or the private sector. From the criteria, both the desirable one and the criteria that is coming from the Act itself, Chairperson, we're able to draw that, you know, as a committee, we'd be able to look for leadership within that individual that has presented themselves. The leadership skills for me are quite important, Chairperson, and we're able to find them within the criteria that has been presented. We've also been able to pick up on the job-specific skills, which are very important. You know, we are looking for issues or an individual that is able to work correctly with finances, because we understand the budget that they will be handling. You know, government systems must be able to be there. They are featuring, and we welcome that. Auditing as well as legal systems, which are quite important, Chairperson, for any executive director to have. I'm also able to, within the criteria itself, you know, draw on issues of change management, which is quite important for any organization or any individual serving in an executive position, because we are looking for individuals that will be able to initiate, chairperson, as well as deliver change within the National Youth Development Agency itself, because we want to see the organization growing from one point to another, and that would be able to be offered by the board members that we will be selecting using this very same criteria that has been presented. I'm able to also draw, chairperson, which I seriously warmly welcome, the sense of commercial acumen, and by saying that we're looking for someone who fully understands what it takes for a business to succeed. And I saw that through the requirements, which are saying that someone who's participated in youth development programs in the communities, and that is the ability to ensure that the lives of young people in our communities are developed fully. A good communicator, chairperson, I haven't seen probably where we'll find that issue of a strong communicator, because you know that board members must be individuals who are able to influence, but over and above that, they interact on a daily basis with different stakeholders for and on behalf of young people, as well as a good negotiator, because we need someone who's going to go out there and speak for and on behalf of young people. So we need to check within the criteria that is presented where we'd be able to get that strong issue of communications. A strategic thinker as well. I think within the criteria that is presented, we'd be able to also draw that, because we need someone who's able to assess the past, the present, as well as see where in the future they would be able to place the organization, and that is someone who has the ability to think ahead in terms of planning and preparations on where they want to take the organization. Lastly, chairperson, I think we need someone who's been proven to be sitting, you know, in decision-making bodies, because as a board or as a member of the board, you are required to take and make decisions on behalf of young people as well as the organization that you are serving. So, chairperson, in saying that, I'm happy with the criteria that has been presented, and I think what the skills, chairperson, and the experience and the competencies that I think we want to see coming from a board members have been correctly captured within the criteria that is presented. Both the one that has been presented as desirable, and the other one that has been presented as essential. Thank you, chairperson. We support the criteria. Thank you.
Thank you, members Maseko. Member Baha.
Thank you, chairperson. And I think that I must also add my voice in welcoming this presentation, because I think it assists us in moving forward. But I think, chairperson, there's only two issues that I want to get clarity on. One, when we talk about the various issues that we want to consider, and the various standing of individuals that we would want to have on the board, I want to specifically make reference to disability, because in the end, we will have about, say for an example, 7 members of the board that would have to get to. How far do we go in terms of being accommodative of those that would be people with disabilities? Because I think that it's important to get to that point, so that we know that this is what we are looking for, and this is how far we can go, and so on. Or this is the lowest that we can reach. Because I think it will help us in the long run. I'm not sure whether it's the right question or not, but I think given what we went through in the previous exercise,
The right question.
I think it's important to get to that. The other one, chairperson, is
When we talk about diversifying the board or trying to make sure that we get people from across the country as far as we can, to what extent can we be able to do that? Because I think that what we're dealing with are skills that people are bringing forward. We're dealing with what the person can bring onto the board itself. And so how do we then navigate that in ensuring that, you know, we cover the country on a national basis? Because I think it would be important so that we don't get to a point of saying we have one person in KZN and one person in Gauteng, and we don't have someone in the Northern Cape. Can we look for someone from the Northern Cape so that we know that we have all the 9 provinces in the country? Or there's we must go as far as we can to try and get representativity across the provinces, but that does not say that we must also look for someone when there's none in a specific province, for an example. But I think I'm fine with the criteria as set, but I thought probably just those additions would assist us in moving forward so that when we get to the final analysis of the board, we are all in agreement of saying we got what we wanted and we are all comfortable with the people that we've set up, and therefore we can recommend these people to be accepted to serve the young people who are unemployed in this country. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Member Baka. Member, sorry, I didn't get your name.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to the good doctor for the presentation on the criteria. Chair, I just have maybe 1 or 2, which is quite important, and it's, as my fellow members were saying, the most attacks were coming from geographical spread and so forth. I think it needs to be mentioned within the criteria. I don't believe in South Africa it will be hard to find skills in each and every province. We can't have a board where majority of the board members are Johannesburg or Gauteng-based individuals. We are talking about young people here that across the country that needs to be serviced by this board. So to have a board that is predominantly only individuals from Gauteng won't be fair, it won't be correct. So we need to find a way. I really won't believe in the 1,100 applications that have been received. 800 of them is only from Gauteng or from KZN, and they have the perfect skills that is set within the criteria. We need that really to be looked at and be looked at vigorously on the geographical spread. And then, I don't know, Doctor, in terms of how can we, maybe perhaps on the gender issue, because I feel for this board, 50% must be women of the board. We need to find a way. I would believe that 50% of this board members should be women, and that is one of my proposals that I want to put forward on the criteria. Thank you very much, Chair.
And you must share with us how are we going to achieve 50%? Because we've got 7 vacancies. We've got 7.
4 must be women, Chair, then it will be 4 women.
So I'm just bringing this thing to members that, you know, shortlisting 50% is not a problem. But in terms of us achieving 50% women we have 7 vacancies. Remember?
Then 4 must be women chair.
Yeah, no.
3 must be
No,
men.
I'm just bringing in so that at least even the public, this issue of 50%, they don't understand it correctly. They think, I don't know, is there a half person? There's none. You know, there's no half person because it must be 3.5, so that it can be 50%. So if we want 51%, then, you know, that one we can understand, but 50%, it's not going to be achievable. But in terms of us shortlisting 50%, it's not a problem, that one. But in terms of the real product of 7 candidates, it's not going to be possible. And you know, as honorable members, we are still in this discussion. Remember, it's you who must come up with answers. The reason we are presenting this document to you, we have done our part. You must contribute and tell us on what do you want to see as our final selection criteria. So other clarity-seeking questions, they are fine, we'll respond to them. But remember, this is our document. It's not Dr. Tembe. Dr. Tembe was working with us and Dr. Advocate Njikelani, but the document is ours. So the product, that must be the final product, it must be us. Ne?
Thank you, Chairperson Member Chabaleng. Your mic isn't on.
I am actually, I forgot that it's, Chairperson, I was going to say that maybe we should ensure that members speaks more, and you as the chairs, when we go off tangent, you bring us back to the meeting, so that you don't really take more time, and because in the process we end up losing what we wanted to talk about. But I was going to say again that the issue of 50%, I think it's given in all of South Africa. Whenever we talk about any representation of people anywhere, the gender issue is not debated because it is given. And on where there is confusion, where we cannot get the 50%, it's better if we have 4 women and 3 men. I think that has been the policy. I don't know, maybe I'm espousing policy of my party, but I think it's the whole of South Africa sees it that way. I was going to say again that Chairperson, or no, in terms of the board, when we look for people, there are 6 areas that we need to search from. One of them is that that person, one of the board members, should at least have skills related to finances and or auditing, because the committee will have the board will have an audit committee, and I take it that members of the board, the 7, those people will be serving in those boards, possibly, I mean in those committees, possibly as the head or overseers of what is happening in those divisions. There's the audit committee, and then we'll need somebody with human resource background. It will even be nicer if that person will have something on public administration, because it helps quite a lot if you get our administrators who have a background in public administration. They will know a lot of things that people who work in the private sector may not necessarily be conversant with. I'll say the PFMA, the MFMA, and many other related laws that govern the public service where these people will be working. And then somebody must have, people who have investment knowledge on investment and what, because one of the subcommittees in the NDA is the investment committee. So we'll need somebody who's got an understanding of whether rudimentary, you know. I don't think we can be able to get a person who is an expert in investment to be here, because I don't think we'll be able to afford those people. But we'll need somebody with those kind of skills who'll be able to oversee where the organization investing its money. Investment is not only in investing resources, but it's also in investing in the human capital that the organization have. And then there will be an executive management committee. That one is very clear. But then we have another committee with social and ethic committee. So we'll need people who've got some background of some sort in social sciences, a social scientist, or somebody with those, rudimentary skills in that, where you can build on, where, in case we do not get a person with, tangible things that you can hold and say, yeah, the person has done this on ethics and blah, blah, blah. And then there'll be, again, the ICT steering committee. So we'll need somebody who's got a knowledge of the ICT sector, what it does, and all the fireworks involved in that. Which means when we engage with the candidates who will be talking to us, we need to have this in mind, that those people who have in one or the other have to give direction to these committees. On the issue of representation, yeah, of course, we shouldn't forget the desirable criteria. That was, it's flattered there. But anyway, Chairperson is saying that when it comes to provincial representation, we need to agree here and now on how you determine that. There are lots of people who move from rural areas in search for jobs. I'm from the Northern Cape, but I moved to Johannesburg in Hillbrow, staying in a flat or in a shack in Alexander with my uncle or relative, looking for a job. I've been in Johannesburg for about 4 years. But as a resident, I go home, let's say, once or twice a year. Migratory labor system has been with us for many years and it's not going to change now. Are we going to say that because Alec originates from the Northern Cape and is looking for a job in Johannesburg, therefore when he applies and say, no, my address is in Johannesburg, but actually I'm from the Northern Cape, how do we deal with such an issue? Because I think it did emerge in our last, the last meeting that we held when we were doing this appointment. And the sooner we clear that, the better. And it happened also with people who are from the, the biggest town in KwaZulu-Natal and the Eastern Cape. Somehow part of the Eastern Cape becomes Durban. Somebody moves from near the Lesotho borders to Durban, it's much closer than going to East London. But anyway, what do you want in East London? Because we don't have relatives who can take you without a salary. Relatives who are able to absorb you in their family, feed you and give you money for transport. The ones that are available are in KZN. Are we going to discriminate or going to see that, no, you are not from Kofimbaba, actually, your address says Durban. I think we need to look at those, Chairperson. And yeah, for now, that will be all from me. Thanks.
Thank you, Member Maleka.
Thank you, Chair. Almost covered by Honorable Chabeleng with the issue of ethics.
Are you covered? Thank you. Chair.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I think, honorable members, the last issue that Honorable Chabeleng have raised, I'm not sure how we're going to deal with it. The issue of people who are originating from the big provinces like Eastern Cape and KZN, and almost most of the people who are in Gauteng, they are coming from all these provinces, and they are not originally from Gauteng. And some of them are students at the universities in Gauteng. And I'm not sure, honorable members, if we want to get to that discussion can take us for the whole night. But what I think will be best for us is that as the committee, we must try our level best that we make sure that provinces are represented in the board. Because once we dwell much on that thing of people coming from, who are in Gauteng, originating from other provinces, we're going to have a problem. We are the ones who will be interviewing people, and even the issue of the one that created more problems for us, honorable members. Remember, when candidates come to the interview, we as honorable members, as we are going to start shortlisting, we must ensure that all provinces are represented in that shortlisting list that we are going to do from tomorrow. But when candidates come into the interview room, when they present themselves and they respond to questions that are being asked by members, we don't look at a province. We don't look at the color or the race or the condition of the person. We ask candidates and we score candidates according to how they perform. So the last product depends on all of us as members of the panel, on how then do we balance our list. Because what do you do if maybe you have shortlisted people and most of the people that you have scored when we reconcile the score sheets, it's people who are coming from one province. That's where we as the panel must come in and do interventions. That is the only way. Because how do you change scores of people? It's a difficult one. It's something that I don't think we're going to finish it now. But all what we need to do as this committee is that we must find a way on how do we balance the list, the final product. And tomorrow, when we do the shortlisting, when we get there, we must also discuss the issue of how many names are we going to shortlist as the final product. So that it must be, the president can have, if we're going to say we are going to shortlist 12 names and present them to the House so that for adoption, then the president will choose from the 12 or 10 names that we would have shortlisted. It's up to us. So that at least the president, as he appoints board members, he can look at that list and be able to balance the demographics, diversity, and so on. All those things, the president, I think, if we don't give him a list of 7 names, we give him a list of more names, then the president will be able to do that job for us. But for us to start now and saying it's not going to be possible, honorable members. It's going to take us for the whole day, for the whole night. We're not, but we must put it at the back of our minds that we're in this process. What made people to complain last time these are the issues that people raised. How then we as this panel try to balance those issues, it's up to us, honorable members. It's not something that each individual can come up with a solution. But at the end of the day, we must find each other and try to reach consensus one way or the other. Because honestly speaking, when you score people, you are not going to change the scores of people at the end of the day and say, I remove Masiko because I can't have a candidate coming from Northern Cape. I remove Honorable Mpiti because I don't have a person coming from Gauteng. It's not gonna be possible. And that's the myth that we need to deal with, because, you know, it's like when people are coming for an interview, people think that we look at them that, oh, this one is black, or this one is Indian, this one is like, we don't interview candidates like that. We just interview comrades, my apologies, candidates according to, no, actually, yeah, we interview candidates according to, yeah, I know, yeah, it's like that, but you know, no, it's, but, you know, so I'm trying to say we must not be create unnecessary problems for ourselves, but we must try and find a way on how are we going to balance the list, because it is the responsibility of all of us as members of this panel. Honorable members, I think when coming to
Chair.
this one,
Sorry, on a point. Chair.
or respond to your
No,
questions.
no, just sorry.
It's the chair in front. Sorry, Chairperson. There were still members who wants to raise issues. No, I thought you raised your hand, that's why I give you the opportunity to talk, but we still got members who didn't give their views. You can continue, member. What's the name again?
Thank you.
Kweba.
Oh.
And then Maleka.
Oh,
You still want your bite?
Much, Chairperson. No, thank you very much, Chair, and your co-chair, Honorable Gillion. Let me then welcome the presentation by our legal advisor, Babu Tembe. Chair, I don't have issues with the presentation, but I would wish that Mr. Tembe can guide us in terms of the demographics vis-a-vis diversity. If I remember the last process, when we were asked by the Parliament to start this process afresh, it was clear that part of the work that we did last year, mainly the issue was on the demographics. And if I went through the report from the speaker, it was clear that in terms of our work last year, we were short of the demographics vis-a-vis the diversity. And in my understanding of the demographics, it always speaks to the statistical characteristics of a population in terms of age and income. But diversity is different. It speaks to inclusion of people from a range of different social and ethnic backgrounds and of different genders. So then, because I said, while I'm comfortable with the presentation by Dr. Tembe, I so wish that he must clarify to the committee the difference between the two, so that when we then decide of what must happen tomorrow, we have an understanding, all of us in this panel, the difference between the two. So that, because it's not that the work that we have done in the previous, which is last year of this process, was wrong, but we were told you must go back, start afresh, and then start to include other ethnic groups, that speaks to demographics and diversity. But however, on the issue of the geographical spread, Chair, because I also quickly peruse, what does it mean in terms of our geographical spread? And I think I must agree with the two honorable members, especially Honorable Chabeling, that our problem in this country are the problems of the previous regime, where Telesom moved from Eastern Cape to Gauteng, but it doesn't change that that particular person comes from the Eastern Cape. But maybe, Comrade Chair, sorry, honorable members, Mr. Tembo will also assist us of the meaning of this geographical spread that we're talking about. But I don't think in a position of 7, because the NYDA Act, it doesn't say geographically means we must zoom in each and every province. But it also, I will take that job back to Mr. Tembe so that he must also assist us. But at the end, I think, honorable members, I'm comfortable with everything, especially the essential criteria that is from the NYDA Act, and also the desirable criteria. And I'm comfortable with it until Dr. Tembe respond to some of these issues that we have raised. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Member Kweba. Maleka.
Thank you, Chairperson. Yeah, the issue of demographic, because if we see, we will remember in the last applicants, there are some provinces that did not apply for the NYDA. We must be specific on that thing. And the issue of people with disability, we must make sure that it's part of our criteria in the group, the minority group, because last we find that after we've done our work, everything, there was that issue that we didn't we didn't do it on our criteria. The issue of the minority group must be part of our criteria, and the people with disability. And we can't represent all provinces. That's why covered by Honorable Mkweba, because some of the provinces, or is the provinces or what, because there are some provinces that did not apply in the previous process that we were busy with, was a problem. So we must be specified about that, what is meaning of the representative of demographics. Thank you, Chair.
Member, I'm first going to allow Honorable Brenda because she didn't have a chance yet.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and my apologies for arriving late. I think it was an administrative issue regarding the transport. I'm standing on behalf of Honorable Lutul, who is not feeling well. So I'm standing for her. Maybe I'll be corrected.
Honorable Brenda,
Yes.
are you standing on behalf of Lutuli today, or you are going to sit in this committee? Because once you,
Today and tomorrow. If she's not feeling well now.
you see the challenge is,
We'll sort it out, yes.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
Yes.
Yeah, ne? Natasha must brief you.
Okay,
Why are we asking you, ne?
okay,
Because we need consistency. If
Okay.
Lutuli is not part of the process when we start we're going to have a problem. That means you are going to be part until the end.
No problem. No, we'll sort it out.
Yeah.
Chair, I just wanted to ask, maybe I'll stand to be corrected. If I can say, as a panel, if you sit down and look on what made the president to say you must go back and redo it again, to look on all those issues that was raised before, as a panel, to check where must you correct, and then you can start over again. So I think it will be it will assist in terms of, to say we must check the issue of gender, we must check the issue of people with disabilities. You must check all those things that had made you to go back and redo it again. I think it will also assist all of us. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member, is it Natasha? Thank you.
Yes, Chair, it's Honorable Natasha Ntlangweni. You must practice that surname. Me and you come from last term. So I was amazed that you don't know my surname by now. But just practice it. Don't worry, I also don't say it correct, because my previous surname was Low. Chair, no, I just wanted to get in, Chair, on the issue on, don't be scared to say comrade. First of all, comrade means fellow soldier. It means a person that you are working with. There's no sin in it. So don't feel scared now if you call us comrade, and it don't need to be corrected. It means fellow soldier or my fellow fighter. That is what it means, comrade. We even refer to our president at times, comrade president. So it means fellow soldier. Now, on the one, Chair, I think we mustn't dwell also, I agree with you on the one of not dwelling too much on some of these issues, because we can't say on the 1,100 applications that there was no applications last time. Let's look at that 1,100 applications tomorrow and see what we get, but we mustn't skip the part of geographical spread. That mustn't be a here or there or neither or not. So, but let's look at the new applications. It's a new process, and then let's take it from there. The old process is done. We are starting afresh. Let's look at the 1,100 applications that we have received, and we make the determination from there, whether all provinces are covered and the criteria. Because for us, what is important that the applications that are there, they must fit this criteria. We shouldn't just take individuals based on the basis that they are coming from a particular province, but the criteria and all of that, that is the most important thing. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Member. Before I will hand over to the legal expert to answer some questions, Chairperson, I also just want to add something. I think I want to agree with members that the criteria is what is expected from this committee, but when it comes to the delivery, I think there is something that we miss. There's a criteria, and then there must be a delivery at the outcome after the process. Now, just to add my voice, Chairperson, I think we mustn't make the same mistake again when it comes to the outcome of the process. And to get to a perfect outcome that is expected from us, I think one of the fundamental mistakes that we did is when we do our shortlisting, we did not look enough into the issue of the representation of demographics, people with disabilities, and we didn't give too much attention to the geographical spread. So there's nothing wrong with the criteria, but I think what we must be aware of is how will we take this criteria and make sure in the shortlisting process that we come up with the outcome that is expected from us. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, honorable members. There are clarity-seeking questions from honorable members. Honorable Mpiti, Dr. Tembe, I think some of the issues that members have raised there in part of this document. The issue of disability is catered in this document. The issue of gender is catered in the document. And what we can request is that members must familiarize themselves with this criteria, because I'm sure, because you got this document for the first time. So some other things that when Dr. Temba was making the presentation, you have missed, you may have missed them. So, most of the things that you have asked are part of the document. So the only thing that I want to do is that to request from honorable members is to caution members that some of the questions, it must not lead us to a situation whereby people sitting outside, they will be saying, the committee has predetermined the results. So that's why we need to avoid some of the discussions, but dwell on the criteria that we have presented. And then, because even myself, I was nearly tempted to ask you a question as honorable members, which was going to lead to a situation whereby you see the issue of 50%. Also, it can create challenges for us, because a person who's sitting from outside will be saying now, from the start, they are saying bafuna bafazi about 50%. And so we must try our level best that we are saying gender balanced. It's something that will be considered by the committee. And then other things, yes, Honorable Brenda, we have, as we were drafting the criteria, we were looking at that document on the things that was raised. Hence, you have seen even today what we have done. We have opened our meeting so that those people who had a problem with our closed meeting today is open, because we have worked on the things that we have supposed to have worked on to come and make a presentation to the committee, so that members must make their own inputs and adopt a criteria and take ownership of the criteria that we are going to adopt today. And then in terms of the issues of geographical spread and diversity and demographics, it's things that are there in the Act of the NYDA Act. So it's things that you cannot run away with, not run away from, but they are there. But we need to find a way on how are we going to deal with all those things. Issues of disqualification, Honorable Mpiti, they are there. They are there in the Act. Who are the candidates that to be disqualified? And I think those ones are specific. There's nothing you can do. Those that are listed in the Act, we take the Act as is. So you can't amend and change what is written in the Act. All what we need to do is to ensure that we look at all those things as per according to the Act. There's no candidate that will be disqualified unfairly, because we need to follow the constitution of the country, the constitution, the NYDA Act, so that we make sure that we avoid situations of litigation unnecessary when the Act is clear on what needs to be done. And then over to you, Dr. Tembe.
Thanks, Honorable Chair, Co-Chair, and honorable members for the questions. But basically, expected that members will speak to the document and raise question, critique the document, what are the missing issues rather than the clarity-seeking questions. But I'll attempt, because some of them are political decisions for the committee, because the document is to assist, it's not prescriptive. So it's up to this committee that, having presented this document, they adopt it or tweak it or make further inputs, so that this is the document that must be owned by the committee. It must be enriched if there is a need for further modifications. But back to the questions. First, there was Honorable Mr. Mpiti. Mr. Mpiti, on section 4, I think I dealt with this document because it belongs to the committee. It speaks to the issues which are for youth development. Then the issue of demographics and geographical spread is in section 9 of the Act. Then on how this committee, because I tend to include myself, that's why I say we're gonna, but it's for the committee. How they gonna factor in the demographic and geographical spread. This is a very tricky situation, because the NYDA Act is not a provincially act that it must consider each and every province. In South Africa, we've got 9 provinces, and yet the NYDA has got 7 board members. So definitely, it doesn't require a scientist that we can maintain a balance of the 9 for the geographical spread. So some of the provinces will be shortchanged in the process. Then on how we deal with the committee deals with the issue of the demographics. I think the demographics, as it deals with the population structure or data of the country, in that aspect, we can consider the majority population. Because, for instance, in the previous process, there were complaints that it didn't cater for the majority or for the population of the Western Cape, which definitely there were more than 5 categories, which if you deal with the Western Cape alone, then you're done with the process, even jumping to another province. So it's for the committee to take a decision and how it is going to balance the issue of demographics and geographical spread. Then on the issue of the vetting process, I think that one is an administrative issue, because what happens is just what the committee normally receive, it's a screening. So, which normally happens before the process is concluded. On candidates who have got the pending cases before court, I think the constitution on that one is very clear. Everyone is presumed innocently, that's the dictum, until found guilty by a competent court of law. So before a person is convicted, I don't think there is a disqualification, because it remains mere allegation. But to assist the committee, I think it must tread with trepidation under those circumstances if somebody, but that person must be afforded an opportunity to answer those allegations before this committee and should not be disqualified by mere allegations, because some may be unfounded, some may be founded, but a person has to be afforded that opportunity. Those are the rules of natural justice. Then I think I've covered the question of Honorable Masig of Mpiti. Then Honorable Masigo spoke to the document that probably I think what is missing is that there must be an inclusion of a good communicator or negotiator and issue of experience in board. But this is what the process does, because it empowers the youth to sit on the board. But on the issue of experience, maybe it is up to this committee to select candidates. So we can't be saying this one has it will be after studying their resume to say this one has the quality. If the committee wants that, then they can do that. Then on the issue, Honorable Baha spoke about disability, on the need how we gonna the committee is gonna cater for that. The committee must be alive to that fact of disability. It's captured by the Act, and even in the previous process, it was. So eventually the outcome should cater for people with disability. So that is the end result. So the committee has to select candidates with disability from the onset for shortlisting, and even at the end, when recommendations are made, there has to be a balance on how the committee balances disability. The issue, Honorable Natasha spoke about geographic spread. I think I've dealt with that. And the 50%, I think it's also a political decision for the committee. It cannot be like prescribed by the document. Then Honorable Nchabeleng spoke about other qualities, finance and audit. These issues, these criteria are included in that document. Then Honorable Mgwiba spoke about demographics and diversity. So on the issue of demographics, I think I spoke about the demographics. Then the diversity is that probably considering that the majority of the population are blacks, so then the issue of diversity, which means despite that the majority of the population, according to the demographics, are blacks, which means it must be a diverse board. It shouldn't consist of a single category of demographic. So that is how to open the space and deal with the issue of demographics and diversity. So the other are just almost a repetition of this aspect. I think that is how far I can go in answering those clarity-seeking questions. Thanks, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much. Dr. Tembe. I think with regards to vetting, I think you have captured it correct, though that we are not doing vetting. Is the employer that will do the vetting part. What the state security is doing for us is the screening. individuals, and human resource obviously will be verifying qualifications of each and every candidate. So what we need to do is that our staff members must make sure that they invite human resource tomorrow, so that they can tell us when are they going to start with that process as soon as we start shortlisting of candidates. It's because they must be on board, and state security must be on board, so that they must not delay our process. Remember, we will shortlist candidates and then we'll publish them, and state security and human resource will then do the verification of qualifications, and the screening part will be done by state security. So that process must take 2 weeks before the interviews. So those things must be done as a matter of agency. And then I think, but honorable members, other things, when that report comes back to the committee, what we do, we don't disqualify people based on the report that we are going to get. What we do, we allow those candidates that we shortlisted with that report that we get from state security or human resource, and honorable members will be having an opportunity to ask that individual on the report that we have before us at that time. So it's the process that we usually follow, so that no one will be saying I was taken out unfairly by the subcommittee. So with that one, I think that one is covered, and there's no train smash. The other things that Honorable Masiko, it's true that Dr. Tembe, it's things that we do, we ask, we consider when we are now finalizing the output, the outcome of the results for candidates, when we make recommendations now, that these are the following things that we need to consider also. But I'm sure most of them, they are covered by, a criteria, and we are going to use them. So we'll pack them. And then at the end of the day, when also, Nomvula, when we draft that score sheet, we must find a way on what are the things that we are going to add in our score sheets, so that as members questioning the candidates, then some of these things must be included in our score sheets, so that it must be things that we are looking forward to hear or see, or which candidates do possess the following things as and when we do the interviews. So, honorable members, if there's no other thing, or there are further questions for clarity, can we get hands? But so far, in terms of the criteria, Dr. Tembe, what are the things that you have noted so that we can add from the ones that we have?
Thanks, Honorable Chair. It was only an issue of good communicator and negotiator, but it's somehow captured under the desirable criteria.
Because the one for finance is there.
Yes, because
And for auditing is there.
it's on the, let me see. On the essential criteria, because we see proven experience contributing to the leadership and strategic direction of a complex organization. That is the experience in the board.
Yeah.
So it's sadly.
Yeah. Remember the issue of experience also. It's not the issue that will make us disqualify other candidates who doesn't have experience.
And
yeah.
and
we will consider even those that don't have experience.
And
but we'll balance on how do we do it.
And this issue of negotiator and communicator is the ability to lead and engage effectively with diverse and high-profile stakeholders. That requires the skills of a negotiator.
I agree that one, we can base that one, look at that one when we are looking for the final product based on the candidates that we would have interviewed, because we'll be here, all of us, so that is another skill that we should look at as and when we interview candidates.
Yeah.
So any other thing that you feel strong, honorable members, that maybe we need to add? The one of a disability, it's given.
It's
that
there.
we need to have one person in those.
Thanks, Chair. It's an addition to the issue that you've just raised of disability. Yes, I agree that in the board, at least we should have one person, but I think for tomorrow, Chair, when we are shortlisting, we should also add that the 2%, because if we are saying that probably tomorrow, if we are having a percentage of 50% women, and obviously we are saying a fair distribution or a representation of provinces, I think we should add a percentage as well for disability when we are shortlisting, that at least it should be 2%. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Just two points of clarity. The one relates to the issue in regards to the vetting process. So the vetting process, vetting versus verification. I just wanted to understand that because, Chair, from your response, you've said that the verification process in which we will be made, the document will be made available to us, will only relate to the confirmation of qualifications.
Yeah, we were informed by State Security that vetting is not within our scope. It's for the employer to do it. So what they do for us is the screening of candidates, whether a person does have a criminal record or not. So remember, when it was easy, it becomes easy if maybe we get the report before we do the shortlisting, because we can deal with it there and there, you know. But when now we have shortlisted candidates, and now there comes the report, like last, in the two previous panels where I sat and chairing those panels, what we did, we allowed the individual to explain himself, because it's not us, Most Honorable Pity. Every individual who have applied knows that these processes are public. So whatever that we get as the committee, it will be in the public domain. We are not going to hide it. So that's why, honorable members, they then have an opportunity to ask the individual on the report that we have from the State Security. So where maybe the candidate will explain and say, no, I was arrested because of political issues, then the person will tell us, and then we'll make you follow up, Tina, with the police and Justice Department, that this one, it was not a criminal record, but it was a political, no, it's a political case. So then they deal with those things. Like, especially for those, but young people of South Africa, they were not there in the 1970s and in the 1980s. So those Kakulu were there, those when we were dealing with into the CGE. But with the NYDA, when we get a person that has got a criminal record, that one, that person have to explain to us. But remember, Honorable Mputi, what Dr. Temba was saying is that sometimes it becomes difficult for us to disqualify a person there and there because already the person is there. We have shortlisted and published. So Tina, it's up to us as the committee, Kuti, what is our decision at the end of the day with regards to that one?
Thanks, Chair. So my understanding is that we will receive a report that will be able to
Yes.
indicate those things. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you so
The
much.
state security will give us a report.
All right.
Yeah,
Will we-
myself and the chair will receive the report and we'll go and share the report with you.
Thanks, Chair. And this is going to be made available to us before the shortlisting?
Before, yeah, it must be before. That's why I'm sensitizing the manager of committees, Nomvula, to go and speak to that department from now, and human resource, because they are the ones who delay. You remember last time, Honorable Mpiti, they delayed us, even with the human resource in terms of formal qualifications, but still I'm a service provider. By now, they should have appointed the service provider, because already the service provider must be ready. Ukuthi they are waiting for the CVs that you are going to give to them, qualifications of my individual.
Thanks, Chair. Just to clarify, it's before the interviews and not the shortlisting. Okay.
Yeah.
Then the next question, just in regards for the clarity in relation to demographics. I know that Dr. Tembe had already said that the committee must decide on how this particular issue is discussed, and I don't think it's an issue to be discussed now, but I just wanted to ask in terms of the interpretation of the word demographics, does that include political affiliation? Thanks, Chair.
No, it doesn't include political affiliation, Honorable Mpiti. That's my understanding. Unless, Dr. Tembe, you've got something I understand. Are we yeah, include Alentole?
Thanks, Honorable Chair. Yeah, we take the literally or the English lexicon meaning of demographics without any other addition or modification to it. So definitely we'll look into the structure of the population. So we've got blacks, we've got Indians, we've got coloreds, we've got whites. So those are the demographics of the country. We've got Asians, Afrikaner, Caucasians and the stuff. So that is my own understanding and interpretation of demographics. Thanks, Honorable Chair.
Quick follow-up, Chair. I just quickly Googled what demographics includes, and that's why I asked the question, because I think it's a vital one going forward for us as a committee. And, you know, it speaks about age, race, ethnicity, gender, marital status, income, education, employment. So it's not just only race. So that's why I want to get some clarity on this point, because it's an important one. If we're going to continue to a shortlisting tomorrow, I think the understanding of what demographics, which was my initial question, what does it mean and how does it relate in terms of our process that we are doing? I don't think it's only racial. So I'd really like some clarity in terms of the interpretation of the word so I can understand what it means for myself. Thank you.
But you've already answered it, that's exactly what it means.
So Chair, according to my view, then it does speak to political affiliation.
But why do you think it does speak to political affiliation?
Chair, because as I said, the demographics and the quick Google search that I just made spoke about a range of different things, ranging from employment, education, etc. So I'm asking whether those definitions would include political affiliation. And you are saying that according to my interpretation, it doesn't. But if I look at employment, for example, I could extend that interpretation to someone working for a political party, for example. That's employment and therefore forms part of demographics.
It depends on how do you interpret it, Honorable Put. But Tina, we are disregarding the political affiliation because once we go there, then we'll mess it up. So I will request members that we must not take it that way. We must exclude that part. Because that means it will disadvantage. Remember, it's not that every South African belongs to a political organization. There are people who doesn't belong to any political party in South Africa. So it will mean that those that don't belong to political parties, they are not considered, by politicians, and which it's wrong. Because they are the ones who are voting for us to be members of parliament. So let's disregard the one of political affiliation. And just take it that we are dealing with South Africans, young people of South Africa. Hence, that's why we even this time said we preferably will prefer young people who are below the age of 35 downwards. So it means when we do the shortlisting, these are some of the things that we need to consider, all of us. We must put it at the back of our minds. That's where even in the criteria, that's where it talks about those who know, it's in Hemenland, knows less, and those who know what, NYDA. I think it's NYDA. So that, because you remember, other people were criticizing us by saying, our advert doesn't have requirements in terms of our qualifications, why we don't have stipulate our qualifications, and we said the act is quiet on that one. So that's why we are not going to discriminate people based on what everybody is allowed to apply for as long as that person we are fit to apply. But it will depend to the end product of who was shortlisted. I think if there's no other further question, we can move for the adoption of our criteria, honorable members, with the 2 or 3, Honorable Natasha?
My hand was up, Chair, but it's just a point of clarity, Chair. I don't know, I just don't feel it would be correct to say, and maybe I'm taking us now back, because it's almost like in the same situation where we are talking about the woman issue. The Honorable Maseko mentioned 1%, at least 1% must be
2% must be disabled.
But now, in the likely event, what if when we are interviewing all 7 of the individuals that we're gonna appoint or must appoint fit perfectly our criteria, and we choose to take all 7 that having a disability? What do we do then? I don't know in terms of that, or are we using our discretion or what? I don't know, maybe perhaps the doctor can assist us. How do we put that? Do we put a percentage in? Is it advisable or not? I'm just asking, Chair, for clarity.
Oh, okay. She was mentioning 2% because she was trying to say we need to have at least 1 person. At least it doesn't mean if there is 3 of them who performed very well, we'll say because they are if these 3 of them they performed very well, kwaba umuntu omnyama umlungu or colored or uyabona bazongena bonke laba bantu lapha. It doesn't mean, but what she was trying to say is that we need to consider people living with disability. Right, Anit? Okay. Thank you very much, honorable members. I think we have exhausted most of the issues of concern. And Honorable Mkweba, over to you.
The issue of disabilities have been covered because I can see in terms of the point 3 of the board members, the last sentence, there's another critical factor in the recruitment. It's stated in section 3.1I, is the need to promote the interest of youth, especially those with disabilities. So it's part of the document. I wanted to say that, Chair.
Yeah.
It's clear in the document.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's why I was saying I would request that members must familiarize themselves with the document so that tomorrow when we are shortlisting, you'll need to look at these kind of things because you'll be reading through the CVs of individuals and it's 117 CVs. 1,117. But remember, tomorrow we must not even waste time. Those who did not submit qualifications as per the requirements, it's automatic disqualification. So that one assists we clock and we clock because it's there. Abanga submitanga nje kushuthi la bayikhiphile bona ngokwabo. So because if I was submitting all the required documents, then it's automatic. So iphumele nje futhi la sixoxa. So disqualified. Isenzele umsebenzi lula kakhulu. Yeah, thank you very much. Ntate Ntshabeleng.
To check chairperson for my own clarity. Those who did not submit the relevant documents that are supposed to be attached, it means they did not even understand the written instruction on what needs to be done.
Yeah, you can imagine
so then, why should those CVs be brought to us? They should come in a card box and they say, these are the 20 CVs that do not have qualifications. So we don't even have to look at them because they don't qualify.
Yeah, thank you.
But again, this thing, yeah, okay, no, let me leave it. Let me not raise something that will embarrass me later.
No, thank you. No, in fact, what we have done, Ntate Ntshabeleng, we have published everything that we received. And then in terms of disqualification and so on, we'll give you the report also of those that did not submit the required documents because we wanted everybody to apply as born go website as a parliament. But in terms of my required documents, yoni problem yethu because kushuthi akafundanga application. So tomorrow they will give us a report because they are working on that report because we worked on that last week, but tomorrow they will present it. Ntate Ntshabeleng?
Chairperson, sorry, just saying then the list of those who do not qualify, they'll say Elegant Ntshabeleng did not attach copy of this and this and that, so therefore disqualified.
Yeah.
We should not treat them as a bundle, and say this did not attach, but we'll say Ntshabeleng did not attach. He says he's got this and that. You only attached one proof and not the other, so therefore.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, they are listed. They are working on that document. Yeah, because we said we want to cover our backs. Yeah, so that tomorrow when a person claims that she or he has submitted things, and then Tina will pull the records and say, Nagu website, I think in Bonaville, because Mongafanga Luto is there. Nagu website, I next. Thank you, Ntate Ntshabeleng. Honorable Masiko.
Thank you, Chair, and I apologize for going back to the issue of a disability, but now it's in relation to the process. I remember that last year we were assisted because sometimes it's so difficult, Chairperson, to pull out from the CV that the individual is a person with disability, and we were assisted by the team in looking out for those CVs that have indicated, though we know that others fail to indicate in the CV that they are a person with disability. So I'm checking whether or not the team will be able to assist us whilst they are saying that these have disqualified, but these have qualified and they've indicated in their CVs that they are persons with disabilities. Will we be assisted with that?
Yeah, honorable members, that one is gonna be like that. Tomorrow, if our staff members, they come with an incomplete report, you must talk to them, ne? Those are the things that we have spoken about last week in our meeting, and I think the documents must be prepared accordingly like that, because we wanted that everybody and everything else must be captured accordingly, so that akumelanga sifune into esingayazi nomvula. So ngicabanga ukuthi nikwenzile lokho sithe nikwenze. Yeah, and anizisiphoxa. Yeah, singakunikeza ithuba ukuthi ukhulume.
Yes, yes indeed, Chairperson. We have tried our level best to assist the committee for tomorrow as much as we can. For an example, the summaries that have been developed covers or highlight issues of gender, race, province, qualifications, whether submitted or not, whether the person has got disability or not. So in that one pager, you will be able to see that whether a person has a disability or not on that. So all this information that you will be looking for to assist you in choosing the best for the shortlist should be in that summarized version. And there will also be a report that will cut across. That report will indicate to you, Chairperson, that where there is a blank space, that person has not submitted a CV, that person has not submitted a qualification. So you will easily see in that report under the name of each candidate what is the reason why this candidate was disqualified as well, because that report gives you an account of for each and every candidate where there are disqualifications. So we are hoping tomorrow that report will be satisfactory to you, but we think we have done everything in our power to make sure that it's really of assistance to the committee. Thanks.
Yeah, I think the one that you did not talk to is the one of disability organization. Okay, disability organizations, you know, we said, there are different disability organizations, so we said you must capture them right. About DEFSA, about in, so that we know, because last they were writing a complaint. Yoguti, they sent is into when we checked, but they were not there. There are things. So this time we must be sure. Yoguti, if they have sent nominations wabo, and nabo, we must know. Yoguti, they've been captured, so that tomorrow bangapali ba complaining, kanti it did not receive their nominations.
I think in that summary document, what I've also seen, Chairperson, is the fact that whether a particular candidate was nominated or not nominated, as to whether by who or what. I'm not sure whether that column has been filled in or not. However, it's not all lost, Chairperson, because the copy of the CV and all related documents and nomination letters would be attached there in any event. So if any member would want to refer to whether who nominated this or what organization nominated this person, you'll be able to see it as an attachment in a specific candidate's CV.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, honorable members. Ntaten Chabeleng, can I get a move also? Ntaten Chabeleng?
No, before moving, I just wanted to share something on disability a little bit.
Okay.
From what happened in Limpopo some years ago. There's the late Honorable Ambassador Mashavane, who was involved in an accident, and he'd been limping for some time with a walking stick. Then he was elected to be, nominated to be in the executive of people with abilities. And somebody, in demotivating, he said, what if this comrade Paula, when his leg gets fixed, are we still going to, is he going to resign? Or what's going to happen? I'm just saying that when we do this thing, the issues of disability are dicey issues. There are people who drag the name of people with disabilities, people who fake disability, you know. And later, if I fake it, I come here working differently. And then you discover afterwards, appointed, that actually that disability is no more. So I think we need to be sensitive to those without asking people that is your disability permanent. You
Yeah.
cannot ask such a question.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that we need to apply our minds when we look at people with all the sensitivities that are there. Like
Yeah.
you can ask a question or no, are you active in structures of people with disabilities? Because you are presenting yourself as somebody coming from that sector. There could be ways of getting that information without asking a direct question. Chairperson, I was suggesting that we move in, that we adopted this approach that we've just discussed. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, honorable members. And I think last time, if you remember, there was also a debate on whether people living with albinism, they are falling under disability or what. And one commissioner who's from CGE was saying, no, they are not disabled. They are normal people. The only thing is that the pigmentation of their skin, it's different from ours, and they don't fall under disability. So that is an argument that she put forward to the portfolio committee, and we learned that day from the portfolio committee that people living with albinism, they are not disabled, because they are just like us. Everything is like us. The only thing is the pigmentation of their skin, which is different. So, I think those are some of the things. So tomorrow, as we read those CVs, we must read thoroughly and on exactly, so that we know exactly when we talk disability, what are we talking about? Thank you very much, and I'm sure some of the, I think it's something that we should have also verified, and the same story that you shared with us, to say a person at the end of the day, kuthiwa umuntu disabled kanti ulimele nje okwesikhashana, and then after that sekakahle bese sekavalile ispace somuntu disabled, uyabona? So mhlambe some of those things we should have thought of them and verify the facts, so that we know when we categorize an individual as a person living with disability, we know exactly what we are talking about. But thank you very much, honorable members. Can I get a mover for the adoption of this report, so that of the selection criteria as a document that we are going to use as this a subcommittee? Can I get hands, honorable members? Sorry?
I ended my talk with a move that I'm moving for adoption. Yeah.
I didn't hear that. Okay, thank you.
After that,
Thank you.
illustration, yes.
Tatenchabeling has moved for the adoption of this report. Can I get a seconder? Malika?
I second, Chair.
Okay, Honorable Malika has seconded. So the subcommittee has adopted the document for the selection criteria that we are going to use as from now onwards. Thank you very much, honorable members.
And then I just want to know, in my language, I just want to check on if we adopt this document, those who are not here, if they come in the next meeting and they've got issues with the document, are we going to reopen that discussion? Because we once did these things last time, and then we end up opening rediscussion on issues. So that if there's anyone, chairperson, who's got an issue with this, they should raise it today. If they don't, then yeah, it's that. Yeah.
Okay.
Just to be.
Asitshelo yini ngoba thina yithi esibhalile. asitshelwe yini ukuthi nina nithini? Natasha, Honorable Natasha?
No, I just wanted to check, Chair, when a meeting takes a resolution, it's a resolution, it's done. You can't go and revisit a resolution. So it's done, the resolutions have been taken, and it paved the way forward on how the process is going to work. We are done.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Natasha. Honorable Mkwebe, Bokufuna second. Oh, okay. Okay, thank you very much, honorable members. We are not going to entertain any member who's not part of this meeting who will come tomorrow and want to question the criteria that we have adopted today, honorable members. We don't have that time. Today, we have adopted our selection criteria that we are going to use. And thank you very much, honorable members, for your active participation and for your valuable contributions that you have made today. And thank you, Dr. Tembe, for being part of the meeting and for assisting us in working with this document. Nomvola and other staff members who were part of our last week meeting. Thank you very much. At least you have made our life very easy. Nomvola, you want to say something before I adjourn the meeting?
No, yes, Chairperson, just on a procedural point of view, the committee program that we are proposing to change, we have added another day for shortlisting. So it would be proper if that decision is endorsed here and the whole committee agrees on it so that we can change that.
Okay.
Secondly, I don't know if you want to agree on the number of shortlists today.
Oh, okay.
As well as
I will agree tomorrow.
tomorrow,
Which
everything
okay.
else. Just the program then, Chair.
Oh,
thanks.
okay. Let's adopt, honorable members, that based on the volume of work that we are going to have, we have added our Wednesday after. We will be starting at 6 because NCOPs will be debating in after 2, ne? At 2. We are starting in the morning. Okay, but anyway, you will be done by 6 o'clock, ne? Tomorrow. NCOP, because you are having a debate as a portfolio committee, so tomorrow, on Wednesday, we will start our meeting at 6 in the evening.
Can I just check with Zama what time we will finish?
Okay, okay. And the chair is checking with the staff of NCOP on what time are you going to finish exactly. If you are finishing earlier than 6, then that means we'll start earlier, immediately after your debate. But we must know exactly what time are you ending your debate. So maybe if you can also assist us, that usually our debates were tata from what time until what time? Mkhululi, nani bancediseni?
That debating activity is approximately an hour, but we must just confirm with the office of the chief whip.
Honorable Mpiti? But in that debate, tata an hour.
Chair, just to understand, till what time is Wednesday going to be?
Debate up.
No, what time are we going to finish on
Tina.
Wednesday? Yes.
Asiboneni kusasa ukuthi thina sigowa through lama CVs wonke awu 1100 and sasa masisidivideleni ukuthi thina sifuna ukwenza ama CV ayingakhi kusasa. And then any batch siyenza the following day. Angithi nabona 1117. So fanele sibone ukuthi siwa divide ngokuthi 500 or 600 or kanjani. Yabo, because kamampela angeke ubheka ama CVs ay 1000 ngelangeli 1 sizabe we're not doing justice kusho ukuthi niphethe ama list. Yabo, it will be unfair. So let's do justice to our work. At least so divide by 2,000 something by 2. mhlambe sithi 600 first day, or sithi 700 first day, and then sithi 500 Wednesday. Cabangani nani? Kuthi nicabanga kanjani? Honorable Mkweba.
No, Chair, I think let's agree that if we've got 1,107 CVs,
17.
17, which means then we can do 600 and something tomorrow, then Wednesday finish the last 500 CVs. But however, then I support the amendment of the program of this process, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mkweba. Can I get a second? Masiko?
Chair, I'm seconding Honorable Mkweba, but I think in the numbers that we will be working with, we should consider that there are those that have already been disqualified. So I think it's going to assist us. So maybe let's just add a % and say, because we'll be working from the morning tomorrow to the afternoon, we should at least do 60 to 65%, and then the other bulk that is left from the number that has been disqualified, we'll then do it on Wednesday, because we have little time on Wednesday, then we have time tomorrow. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, yeah, I think, yeah, I sense in Ganjal 65% tomorrow, and then 30%, like 25% or 30% the following day. Chair, what time are you finishing?
You will let me know, we will just work out the times and stuff, and then you'll phone me back.
And now, my minutes, whip. Angita my minutes, ngita my minutes when you debate. How? When disorganized, can anybody zontshela namhlanje? Nizo prepare kanjani ama speech wenu? Yeah, because Nomvula.
Perhaps we can stick with 6 o'clock. If there are any changes, then we'll communicate it tomorrow of the exact time. I think that will be the best for us moving forward.
No, but it's disorganized on Nomvula. Since in Elianyana, we are about sitting of 5. But if ever, early, you know, it's better if we work professionally.
Okay.
We know exactly what tomorrow in meeting it, because some of us will want to go and do something else, but and then send it say pelili debate. We can't run like that as if we are not organized. So we must know by tonight what time is the debate finishing, so that you communicate with us. We are going to start at what time. In principle, we are agreeing and we have adopted adjustment of our program that will be adding Wednesday as another day for shortlisting. Is that fine, honorable members? Ne? And then they will communicate at what time are we starting? We are starting tomorrow at 9:30. Right, 9:30 or 9? Right, 9, right?
Yes.
Okay. I started going on 9, sas. 9.
So I was just saying, Chair, our NYDA program has already been communicated publicly, so whatever we do and change, it means it will have an inconvenience to the members of the public as well. So that is what we need to, that's why I wanted the committee to also agree on the changes on the program as well, of adding another day. So whether we change the time or whatsoever, those times as reflected in the adopted program are the ones that are in the set list.
Yeah, it's fine. 9 o'clock was starting tomorrow, and then Wednesday we have adopted the program now. Go to Wednesday, it's an additional day, and then tonight you must communicate with us what time is the meeting starting on Wednesday. Before 12 midnight, you must know what time. Okay. Thank you very much, honorable members. The meeting is adjourned.